One of the conundrums in translation today is what to do with the word he. The word he can refer to a male, or in certain parts of the world, he can still be used generically of people in general. So it's one of the really difficult decisions you make before you start a Bible translation. Part of the problem, though, is that we're probably used to seeing the word he where the Greek doesn't technically say he. And it just makes for an interesting discussion. Let's take a look at this passage. Paul has just finished talking about the passage in the Old Testament that the ox should be allowed to eat while it's working at trading out the grain, and comes to verse 9 and makes the application that this was also written for us. And then in a somewhat convoluted order of words, Paul says, should, in hope, the plowing, so a present active participle, to plow, the infinitive, and the threshing in hope, and then a very weird construction for sharing in the crop. So if we were to put this more in English order, we'd say, the one sowing ought to sow in hope, and the one threshing, understood ought, in hope for sharing in the crop. Okay, let's start with this because that's kind of an odd thing. You have an articular infinitive with the article and the genitive. Well, what's that about? Well, hopefully you remember from BBG 32.15, the infinitive has lots of different uses, but one of them is the articular infinitive with the article and the genitive can express purpose. So that's what's going on here. It's the one threshing ought to be able to thresh in the hope for the purpose of sharing in the crop. Okay, so there's the verse. But let's get back up to this ha. What you have is ha, nominative singular masculine article with a present participle. So yes, it is masculine, and so you can translate it with a he. But remember, in certain times, Greek follows natural gender, and other times grammatical gender. This article plus a participle is an indefinite expression. It's intentionally indefinite. Now, yes, it can be used to refer to a man who is doing something, but it is an indefinite construction. And so that's why I'm saying you don't have to translate this as he. So what are we going to do with the article? So the CSB goes with he, as does the NASB and the ESV. He who plows ought to plow in hope. The NLT went with the one, that the one who plows and the one who threshes, which is nice because it's properly indefinite, but it's also singular. And I like that. And the NIV went with the whoever plows, which is even more indefinite. But all they're trying to do is to deal with this nominative singular masculine article that doesn't necessarily refer to a male. Now, having said that, my guess is that most of the time someone went out to plow a field, it would be a man. I don't know that for sure. So when in these situations where the referent of the article is historically a male, then saying he actually makes a little more sense. But this is the kind of the dividing factor between the different translations, and that the NASB, ESV, and the CSB will tend to say he, and the NRSV will as well. The Net Bible is a little away from the he. The NIV is definitely away from the he, as is the NLT. So it's just one of those decisions you make in a translation committee before you start translation. What are we going to do with the nominative masculine singulars and the word he?